Hey, folks, and welcome to a daily rating special. Yes, this week we are entering in a new kind of special here. It's a deep dive on a daily ratings must-watch film. So we're taking the whole episode to go through one movie, and we'll talk about its production, the reception, we'll have some fun little categories, and of course, a review from Mr. Vincent Daly. And unlike all other episode folks, there are spoilers in this here special, so you've been forewarned. Today we're taking a dive into No Country for Old Men, a 2007 film directed by the Coen Brothers, and it is a fantastic, fantastic movie, folks. So sit back, relax, stay tuned, and enjoy the special. All right, we'll bring you in now, Mr. Vincent Daly. How you doing, buddy?
Tom, how's it going?
It's going okay on my end. How was your week of movie, I should say?
Easy and hard, for sure. Watched No Country about 3 times.
Me too.
Yeah. And, I mean, rewatching it wasn't exactly hard by any means, even the first time, and writing some preliminary notes. But obviously difficult, this being, the first time we're tackling a 90, pre-established 90, we'll say that. Of course, we had Dune 2 earlier this month, and now
that was just a nice surprise. Yeah. It really was.
Yeah, and then Kung Fu Panda 4, of course. I mean, the classic.
Okay, well, we have No Country for Old Men. It's directed and adapted by the Coen Brothers, written by the Coen Brothers. It's based on a 2005 novel by the same name, and the book was written by Cormac McCarthy, who also wrote The Road.
Yes, The Road, Blood Meridian, apparently an epic Western.
Was that adapted for a film?
No.
Okay.
But he's really a legend in the author space.
Okay. Movie was released at Cannes Film Festival, May 19th, 2007, and then began, I call it like a rolling release on November 9th. There's another name for it that studios use.
Oh, really?
But the rolling release of you just dribble it out into theaters, see how it does. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're casting a line in the water. And then it was gradually getting more and more popular. Okay. Then it's nominated for an Oscar, and then it's like really in theaters. So it's just like it had that slow release kind of. It stars Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem. Tommy got top billing for the film, even though he had the least screen time out of the main 3.
I mean, he is the old man.
He is the old man,
and he's got no country.
I know.
I always found it weird. Also, Tommy Lee gets the Oscar nom for this in that lead spot. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, he doesn't get it for this. He gets it for another movie he starred in this year.
The same year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Actually, if you look at the Oscars this year, there is, for 2007 into 2008, there's a lot of double bookings. Like Roger Deakins got nominations for this, and also Assassination of Jesse James.
Oh, of
same
course,
year.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny. I just put that on the site too. We covered that recently. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting though. A double. Okay. By the way, so it's 2 hours and 2 minutes long, and it was the longest Coen Brothers film at the time. And it's only been surpassed by The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Wow. Would you care to share your opinions on Buster Scruggs?
No, I'm not the hottest on that film.
Yeah.
But one thing we talked in our Coen Brothers a few weeks ago, the episode, we were like, the lengths of these movies are phenomenal.
Yeah.
The fact that 2 hours and 2 minutes is long for them.
Yeah.
So the name of the book and movie was based on the first line of a poem of a William Butler Yeats poem. Don't know him.
Yeah, no clue.
It was written in the early 1920s. But the poem was meant to describe a metamorphical journey of a man pursuing his own vision of eternal life as well as his conception of paradise. So very much that's where Tommy Lee Jones' character is.
Sure, yeah, especially with the dreams towards the very end and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah. It's 4 stanzas, and I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read the first one.
Sure.
It says, "That is no country for old men, the young, in one another's arms, birds in the trees, those dying generations at their song. The salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas, fish, flesh, or fowl, commend all summer long. Whatever is begotten, born, and dies, caught in that sensual music all neglect, monuments of unaging intellect."
Wow.
which I think is very Tommy Lee.
That
know?
that really sets the tone for the dreams he talks about towards the end, and kind of his character going through this old man crisis. He's a little existential. He's a little old timer.
So I watched it basically 3 times as well.
Yep,
The third one I was kind of taking notes and stuff, and just going through some of
Call it work and watch.
our categories here. I enjoyed Tommy Lee Jones more and more with each consecutive watch.
That's great.
Yeah, and when I just something about, I was like, wow, give me all the Tommy Lee Jones. I really fell in love with his character and the way he did, like so much.
Maybe we'll revisit this movie that he got nominated for the year. I think it's something Epitaph, something like that. I don't know, but that's great. I think his character really gets lost in the shuffle, especially in compared to how crazy Javier Bardem is. You know, he's such a downplayed character, but he has some great moments when he's talking about, how they butchered the cow and the steer came alive.
And just his vocal inflections.
Yeah.
Like he is, we'll get into it because my big take is just like, this is still just a Coen Brothers comedy.
He really is.
Like I'm laughing every single time Tommy is on screen.
Yep.
I'm smiling and I'm literally chuckling. I think he's so funny.
He may be the best Coen Brothers weirdo they ever wrote. or in this case, adapted. Yeah.
So when was the first time you saw do you remember when you saw this movie for the first time?
I was trying to think of this, and I think the last time I really saw this was in 2018 for probably the score on the website that you see, folks.
Okay.
I was trying to think back when exactly was that last rewatch that we got the score basically going on.
Right.
But
you knew you loved it at that point. You've probably seen it a couple times before that.
Absolutely. I mean, like we mentioned previously on the podcast, 2007 was a year that film really started blowing my mind. I was like, whoa, there's something here. And got me hooked. And honestly, I think that 2007 really is one of the greats when you look back at years. We always talk about it kind of on a sidebar of like, what are these all-time great years, the best of the best. I think 2007 is up there.
2007, since we really been doing the website and stuff for the past few years to get set up, I have been a big proponent of 2007.
Yeah.
And I think it's post-2007 where it starts to kind of 2008, I think, is when it starts to go down almost.
Sure.
Or it reaches peak, because I think you have Dark Knight comes out in 08,
Yep.
I believe. And then also Iron Man comes out,
Yep.
which everyone likes the first one. And then that was the beginning. That was like, okay,
the superhero obsession.
Right, push the boulder down the hill and it collapses in on itself almost.
But I think if I had to put a finger on when specifically was that first watch, it had to be probably January, February, hearing the buzz around this getting nominated, and definitely side by side with There Will Be Blood. That year, those two movies, I was like, whoa, these are like incredible movies, even back then.
Yeah.
And nostalgic glasses aside, obviously the critical praise of these movies were kind of guiding my opinion initially.
Yeah.
This movie has grown to be such a favorite of mine, since.
Okay, I'm surprised you saw that. It took me a while to get on board with this one. I think I saw There Will Be Blood way sooner before. But this must have been maybe a Netflix watch.
Oh,
when
really?
I first got kind of Amazon Prime, started using that.
Yeah.
Which has now been over a decade.
Yeah.
I've been a Prime member since 2013.
Right.
Started getting into the video stuff a little bit after that. So I think it was then, and I've only maybe watched it 2 or 3 times. And loved it. But I missed that first initial wave. I knew the buzz, and I knew the buzz with There Would Be Blood. But I think the only 2007 movie that I remember watching around the time when it came out, when it came on DVD, was Denzel Washington.
Oh, American Gangster.
Yes, I watched American Gangster originally.
Sure.
What a year for film.
Yeah, also very suspiciously missing from the Oscars that year, which
it is a little
suspicious.
Guess,
yeah, I guess people really, I don't know, they just saw it as another gangster film.
Right.
But,
by the way, Tommy Lee Jones in the Valley of Eli.
Yes.
Eli? Elah?
Elah?
In the Valley of Elah?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've never heard of it. To the point that I've looked at 2007 critically.
Lead role he was nominated. Daniel Day-Lewis won, of course.
Right.
And then Johnny Depp for Sweeney Todd and Viggo Mortensen for Eastern Promises.
Yes.
It's a good movie year, man.
Absolutely.
Good movie year.
I will get into it when we talk about some of the reception of the film, but I can't tell you how much I love the split on who wins at the Oscars this year.
We're definitely going to get into it.
But yeah.
What was and then I think last time I saw it, by the way, was probably like 20. I think it was like it had to be post COVID, like 2021 ish. I probably just sat down and watched it one day, but maybe 2021. It was good to return to it again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also a movie I feel like has the Godfather effect that it's good and it gets pushed to the back burner because it's good.
I think that's why I didn't watch it for years, probably.
Sure. And I think I don't really fault anyone watching this film and maybe being a little unsatisfied on the first watch. I feel like, especially how the ending unfolds with Anton's short story and
Josh Brolin's character, Llewellyn's,
exactly.
Off screen.
It's a very bittersweet movie. I mean, that's why I loved it, even on that first watch. But I really don't blame anyone for kind of not seeing the hype in ways on this. So I'm excited to hear from folks at home. Obviously, the premise here is that you've come to this episode.
Yeah.
With it watch, we will be doing spoilers, but I would love to hear from anyone specifically that hasn't seen this before and given it a shot.
And I think just naturally, a lot of people who will be listening haven't seen it.
Right.
Or haven't seen it for 10 years or something.
Right.
Which is cool. Okay, let's go into production first a little bit. So I'll just kind of run down some stuff. So Tommy Lee was the first actor to be cast in the film. Josh Brolin's character, Llewellyn Moss, was originally offered to Heath Ledger. But Ledger turned it down to spend time with his daughter or something like that.
Right.
Which totally different role.
Also, coming across this little nugget of information made me question the dedication he has then with Dark Knight. That he's staying in Central Park and sleeping with homeless people to get into this method acting for the Joker. Where was his daughter a year later? Where was that commitment?
Maybe it's when she went to school.
Yeah. Right. Unreal. Do you want to get in? Is that a casting that you would prefer over Josh Brolin? Who do you think would make out better?
No. So later in the episode, folks, we have a category of who would we cast other places or whatever, or what would be fun to think about other people in roles. I don't have anything for Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
I thought when we first made the category, I was like, this is going to be easy. Josh Brolin, because he plays a normal guy, a Texas guy.
Yeah.
I don't have anybody for him. I don't think Heath Ledger would have been better.
Tough to say.
He's young, too.
He's young. What does he have under his belt? Brokeback Mountain, as far as Western roles?
Yeah, Brokeback was what, 06?
I think so. Maybe
he is hot coming off of that, though.
Yeah, right.
No, 04. Is it 04?
Yeah.
Anyway, but I don't know. He could do it, but there's something he doesn't have a manliness that Josh Brolin kind of captures.
Sure.
Or just Josh Brolin is dumb and yet very smart in this film and hilarious.
Yes.
He's so good.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think Heath would have been. I've loved Josh Brolin in the role.
Right.
And apparently Josh Brolin was broke as hell.
Yeah.
He was doing some day trading stuff. So it's good that he got the role. Garrett Dillahunt was in the running for Brolin's character also. He auditioned. They had him back 5 times for auditions.
Whoa.
So if you don't know who Garrett Dillahunt is, because I had no idea. It was who is this guy? The Coen Brothers ended up casting him as Tommy Lee Jones' main deputy.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's Garrett Dillahunt.
Wow.
So he was also in the role to be Josh Brolin.
Maybe had some of those comedy beats,
He's great against Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones is so just old Southern, just this West Texas guy. And then he just has this oh, Sheriff, we just missed him.
All hell failed and shot the dog. That's a favorite line.
So, but he 5 times auditioned to play Josh Brolin's thing.
Wow.
Josh Brolin, Quentin Tarantino, and Robert Rodriguez helped Brolin make an audition tape to send it in.
So weird that he would need help from high-end directors.
They were working together.
Yeah, that's around the time. The Grindhouse.
The Coens, after watching the audition tape, said that they liked the lighting. That was their big comment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
2 days after Brolin got the part, he got into a motorcycle accident. He said as he flew over the car that hit him, he said he remembers thinking, "F***ing shit, I really wanted to work with the Coens."
That's so great.
So he lied. He lied to the Coens and he broke his collarbone or shoulder.
Wow.
Lied to the Coens. He was like, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad." He got his doctor to lie to the Coens.
Wow.
But then when they were just like, where's the affected area? And they're like, his shoulder. They're like, apparently the Coens were like, oh, he gets shot in the shoulder in the film. We're good. It's like, no problem.
Yeah. He's always leaning injured in the movie anyway. So
actor Mark Strong auditioned for the role for Anton Chigurh, Javier's character, and he made it to the final 2 spots. And apparently there was scheduling problems at one point with Javier.
Yep.
And the film, and they had Mark Strong on backup, he was about to jump in to take the role.
Thank God not.
I kind of like Mark Strong the more I see him, but
definitely a working actor. I don't know. You put Mark Strong,
a
bald guy. He's rocking bald for a while.
You can picture him with the Anton hair. They have the same eyes, him and Javier. I think,
really?
Almost.
Okay.
I think a little bit of the face could be the same.
I would say, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
You can't unsee Javier Bardem
Exactly.
as a psychopath.
Exactly.
When the Coens first approached Javier said, "I don't drive, I don't speak good English, and I hate violence." And the Coens said, "That's why we called you." Production started in May of 2006. It had a budget of $25 million, which I was almost surprised it was that much.
Oh, sure. I mean,
they weren't big actors at the time, except for Tommy.
Right. They weren't big actors. I think that's surprising as well with just the production of
the simplicity.
Yeah. I mean, you think it could be lower? Even.
I was expecting.
Really?
I thought it was like 15 or something.
Wow. And what a bloated time we live in, where movie budgets are 9 figures.
I know.
I mean, oh my God.
It was shot in New Mexico and West Texas a little bit, and I think one shot was actually in Mexico. Roger Deakins was cinematographer on the film.
Yeah.
It was his 9th film with the Coens at that time.
Yep.
Deakins said the challenge for the film was making it seem extremely realistic. So with approaching the film, he said, "I'm imagining doing it very edgy, very dark, and quite sparse." He goes, not stylized at all. Which feels, it just looks... The film looks amazing.
I think so. I would maybe disagree on stylized, but I totally agree. The challenge of filming the darkness of this movie, both in tone and the literal many night shots, and how shadows work, and even indoors, it is a challenging film to kind of wrap your head around.
But I love that they didn't do, when he said stylized, I don't think not crazy lenses, not crazy colors, because they wanted to make it. They just wanted real color, basically, and just it looks so good. He didn't even carry a zoom lens with him on set. He said that when the camera itself moves forward, the audience is moving too. You're actually getting closer to somebody or something. It has to be much more powerful effect because it's a 3-dimensional move then. And he went into like the coin flipping scene, how if there's close-ups or zoom-ins or whatever, it's just the camera moving. So it's like the realness. He was all about getting it like real.
Yeah.
Because the Coens are so precise, they storyboard everything down to a T. They're like nerds, and they just know what they're doing. So little is said, kind of.
Certainly the benefit of adapting off of the novel as well.
Well, definitely. Deakins said that there's maybe only a dozen shots that didn't make it into the final cut of the film.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
And going back to the budget perspective, that's how you make a tight movie.
Yeah, very much.
There's no extra fat to trim on it.
Deakins said that a typical movie like that would use 700,000 to 1 million feet of film. No Country used 250.
Wow.
So just like really cool.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin said that him
Good
and
production notes too. How'd you find all this stuff with Deakins?
Come on, there's stuff on the movie. Josh Brolin said that him and Javier had a load of fun making it. His quote was, "Maybe it's because we both thought we'd be fired." He goes, with the Coens, there's 0 compliments. He goes, really 0 anything. No nice work, nothing. He goes, and then I'm doing this scene with Woody Harrelson. Woody can't remember his lines. He stumbles his way through it, and then both Coens are like, "Oh my God, fantastic!" Which is pretty good.
That's great.
I remember I was listening to Brolin do an interview too, and this was back. It was back on Chris Hardwick's podcast.
Oh, okay.
And he was talking about it was like it's a very small set, very small crew. He goes, we're in between cuts. He's like, Ethan is just fixing a light on set. He goes, I'm standing next to like Joel. And he just goes, yeah, this movie's going to suck. And Brolin was like, what the hell? You can't just say that, man.
Yeah. He needed some leadership in that moment. There's also a great story about Brolin with the two Coens when he finds the bag of money and he opens it and he discovers that it's $2 million. It's a lot of money in front of him. He wanted some director notes of like, hey, should I make like a shrug? Should I make like a sniff or something, some sort of, audible
acknowledgement.
Yeah, exactly.
And
they're like, oh yeah, do it that way. And he did it. And apparently, like, there was no production notes. Right. There was no direction given to him, I don't know what you would call that. Is that an actor's director or not a director at all?
I don't know, a director?
Yeah, director's director.
I heard that Wes Anderson is also like that and very precise with his script. I don't know how I would like that. Like, honestly, as soon as you say cut, just like, okay, good job.
Yeah.
Like, just some type of acknowledgement would be nice. I mean, that Brolin said, Javi and I thought we were literally going to be fired every day.
That's fantastic.
I would like some, I don't know. They said they would come up on set sometimes and just like maybe say one or two words.
Wow.
Which they don't like waste your time going through pages of information with you. Like they're not trying to like, you know what I mean? They're not overbearing. But working with, I would want a little something for my director. Right.
Especially when the writing is so important as well. You'd think like there's a degree there that you want, hey, is this matching the vision that you have? You know? So.
And could you imagine not getting any satisfaction from your director and then Woody Harrelson forgets his lines and they love it?
But were they doing that sarcastically? I don't know.
Are they that smart?
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I brought it up before in the podcast, but I'll never forget when Jeff Goldblum was talking about working with Wes Anderson on Grand Budapest.
Yeah.
And Jeff Goldblum said that he changed a but to like an and or an and to a but. And when the scene was done, Wes Anderson was just like, "Hey Jeff, did you change something?" And Jeff was like, "Oh yeah, I just thought this would be." He goes, "Yeah, let's do it again, but just do it the original." Which is very
that
precise.
seems like a nightmare. That seems like a passive-aggressive, like, nightmare boss. I think in that case, I'd prefer the Coens hands-off style. But yeah, I think that's a super interesting point. It made me curious on their more overly comedic ones, if there's more direction to hit the right tone of the comedy, because their tone is their tone. You know, I don't feel like anyone else does it. So
that's true. Are the actors getting that just from the writing?
Yeah.
Or is there more talk of those comedic beats?
Right. Or a lot of takes or interesting
I don't think they do a lot of takes.
Yeah, right.
Almost ever.
Shoestring budget.
You want to get into reception of the film or go into the film a little bit?
We can talk about reception of the film just because I think there's a lot to love in that Oscars season.
Yeah.
4 Oscar wins.
Yep.
8 nominations total. Honestly, like I said, I'm super happy how this played out as far as really the split of what's going towards There Will Be Blood, what's going towards No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
In that year.
I don't personally.
Oh, okay.
I had that in kind of like my hot takes
really?
later. Yeah. But it was I don't know. It's such a good movie.
With
so
the hot
it's cool.
takes.
Well, no, I think that I think that There Will Be Blood got shafted a bit because I think it's the better movie, and so do you by 1%.
Right.
We're gonna give away the code. It's on the website, you know.
Yeah.
But I just think There Will Be Blood only got Daniel Day-Lewis.
And I think no, Best Director was them. Oh, they got There Will Be Blood got cinematographer as well. Which I mean,
over Deakins.
Yeah, and let's flash back to 2008, 2007. Deakins is now horribly overlooked. He's nominated twice this year. And he's now horribly overlooked. I mean, the first one he wins is for Blade Runner, all the way back, all the way forward.
Which is crazy.
Almost a decade. So.
Like you said, it was nominated for 4. It was nominated for 4, kind of below the line Oscars, kind of. Sound mixing, sound editing, film editing by the Coen Brothers. Oh, and then also cinematographer Roger Deakins.
Yeah.
It won for Best Adapted Screenplay. Director Javier won for Best Supporting Actor, and the film obviously won Best Picture.
Do you think? Well, I mean, I think I probably know the answer. If you're that much of a fan of Brolin's acting in this, do you think it's a snub that he didn't get the nod?
Nominated?
Yeah.
No. Brolin is really good, but he is the least good of the 3.
Okay.
But I don't think that's his fault.
Sure.
Like, Tommy Lee Jones is just running with it.
Yeah.
And, like, he's not doing anything. He's sitting down in diners for basically the majority of the film.
That's so true.
But Brolin...
Telling old chestnuts.
I love all of them, but, I mean, everybody looks to Javier's character because he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everybody loves that. Tommy Lee Jones, just his dialogue and stuff is great. But, I don't know. I would almost give it to Tommy, but Tommy was given top billing. And he definitely shouldn't get it for best actor. He's barely in it.
Right. And in that arms race, it's got to be Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is
that's
arguably his absolute best.
Right.
Is in There Will Be Blood.
Deakins did get a BAFTA for cinematography, at least.
Okay.
He got some sort of something. Javier was the first Spanish actor to win the Best Supporting Actor at Oscars, Screen Actors Guild, BAFTAs, Golden Globes, and Critics' Choice Awards.
Wow.
And not together, just separately. He was the
Yeah.
first Spanish guy. And I think he was the first Spanish actor to ever be nominated for an acting Oscar.
Really?
Back in like a 2000 film.
Wow.
And then there he goes. He's the first one to win it then.
And so well deserved. Honestly, his Oscar acceptance speech, probably a top 3 acceptance speech for me.
Shit, I think go back and look at it.
More so just because he's so he's I don't know, it's not humble, it's kind of it's a little bit of a joke. He thanks the Coen Brothers for letting him wear the wig. But he thanks his mother in Spanish, and she's there and she just looks so proud of her boy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I love it.
That is a good rankings we should do as a special. Just go down favorite speeches or something. There's some good ones.
Maybe a dry week next January.
I did look at the Coen's speech, though. So while accepting the award for Best Director, Joel Coen said that, quote, Ethan and I have been making stories with movie cameras since we were kids, recalling the Super 8 film they made titled Henry Kissinger, Man on the Go. He goes, honestly, what we do now doesn't really feel that much different from what we were doing then. We're very thankful to all of you out there for continuing to let us play in our corner of the sandbox.
Oh, that's great.
Which I think just pros.
Absolutely.
And then some other fun facts. I didn't know where to put this. I mean, probably in production I could have put it, but we got to talk about the There Would Be Blood story.
Yes, in the legend of these two films.
Yeah. So There Would Be Blood. Just in general, the fact that these two movies that have a very similar feel, they're both dealing with like this, just the desert, West Texas type vibe.
Yep.
They both come out in 2007. They both have big directors. They both have great casts.
Yep.
And then you could absolutely switch the names. And I think I constantly switch the names. There Would Be Blood would make so much sense for No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men would make sense for There Would Be Blood.
So much for There Would Be Blood. It was just about oil barons
right,
and stuff, you know?
Exactly.
Like, it both works.
Wow.
I always interchange them. And also, they were filming at the exact same time in West Texas.
Yep.
So they're both filming around Marfa, Texas. Mm-hmm. And the scene in There Would Be Blood when the oil rig lights up and it's just billowing black smoke, it carried, 10, 15 miles on set of the No Country set, and they just shut production for a day.
The true arms race between these two.
Literally, yeah. In April 2010, Paramount Pictures was forced to pay $15 million of bonuses to Tommy Lee Jones. And all had to do with, because it ended up being kind of box office success.
Okay.
It was like stuff that the lawyers got wrong in the write-ups and stuff. But depending on success, he was owed $15 million, so Paramount paid that. A team of forensic psychiatrists studied 400 movies over a period of years and identified 126 psychopathic characters. They chose Javier Bardem's portrayal of Anton Chigurh as the most clinically accurate of a portrayal of a psychopath.
Really?
Yeah.
A big theme I'm going to be hitting on is realism. So I love that fact that
it's pretty good.
Yeah, there's something to it. It feels really scary. So
in Fargo, $1 million is in a leather case that gets buried in the snowbank, apparently never to be found. In No Country for Old Men, about $2 million is in a leather case, is sought. And in both movies, the leather case is the same, and it's the kind of case that airline pilots use to carry their charts and maps in.
Really? Wow. It is such we're talking about very minor pieces of the film, but it is such a great briefcase of how it opens. It has the double fold to it. It's also for the plot as well, him not finding the tracker. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what it's called.
There's so much that it's just a perfect case.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't remember it in Fargo. Can you picture it?
Honestly, no.
Apparently it's the same kind.
Wow.
And then the other fun fact I have is a larger expense than anticipated was for the fake blood used for the film.
Oh.
So it was $800 a gallon of fake blood. So normal cheap fake blood contains like a bunch of sugar in it.
Yep.
And so all the dead extras lying around on set and in the sand would have been crawling with bugs and ants. So they went with the expensive stuff.
Yeah.
And Joel Coen, when they shot the crime scene, the drug scene gone bad, Joel Coen realized why they were spending so much money.
Wow.
Because it was $800 a gallon for fake blood.
Yeah. When going back to that budget, I honestly think that's where, like, even with the 25, like,
It makes sense.
The pyrotechnics, the squibs, the blood work, the guns. I feel like that's where, honestly, a lot of realism is found.
Yeah,
I would expect that alone to drive the budget up more than $25 million.
Right. Yeah. That's true. 25 is dirt cheap.
Like dirt cheap.
Even back then.
Right. Pre-recession.
But I was expecting
pre-housing crisis.
I mean, I go back to Layer Cake. I think
Yeah.
I put that in my top 2 under $10 million budget. Layer Cake.
That's a great compilation. That's a great compilation. Tommy's under 10.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. All right, Finn. With that, I mean, we are set in 1980, West Texas. They never say the year, but by the quarter scene, actually.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, we're set in West Texas. We really have 3 main characters that are barely ever on screen together.
Right.
Almost never on screen together, essentially.
Right, absolutely.
But let's get into it a little bit. How do we like No Country for Old Men?
Well, obviously, it is no surprise that I absolutely adore this movie. You want to talk about movies that, like, I truly love and will rewatch as many times as possible. It is No Country for Old Men. That is absolutely up there. Something I also like to note with this kind of must-watch special, certainly for anything in the 90s, like you said, There Will Be Blood is 1 point above this on the podcast.
Splitting hairs.
It's splitting hairs, but also in the sense that I think the 90 mark's a masterpiece. And in that sense, like, they're all 10 out of 10s in a lot of cases. When it comes down to what I think is not done properly in this film, there's almost next to nothing. We have something that, we'll talk about as far as, like, what would you change in this film?
Yeah.
Honestly, there's just so much that I think would create a domino effect that if you did change it, this movie is so tight and thought through, and that certainly plays into the kind of the history of the Coen Brothers and their storyboarding methods as well that you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't think there really isn't too much that you can do different. I think it's more so for what this story is, because it is a quiet film. There's really not much going on.
Sure.
For what this film is, it's almost like as perfect as can be.
Yep.
And it's films like that where you said it exactly right. When you're over the 90s at the daily ratings, it's a big deal. It is masterpiece level, bar none. Yeah,
absolutely. And this should totally, even if there's something that's ranked higher, this should totally be worth your time. I would say if I had to give an elevator pitch for those of you that have not watched this movie, not done your homework.
I forgot to set this. I forgot a category. We dubbed this "Convince the Dummy."
Yeah.
And if that's basically it's okay. If a dummy doesn't want to see it or whatever, what are the 3 bullet points? What is the 30-second elevator pitch to convince the dummy to sit down and watch this film?
Well, I think I think it's got to be one of in all 3 of these. One of the best thrillers of all time.
Okay.
One of the best chase plots of all time.
Absolutely.
And one of the best suspense films and how that bleeds into horror at times. I think the Coen Brothers are able to strike a perfect balance between their usual goofy comedy and real stakes, truly making an adaptation that no one else can do. I don't think anyone else in the director's chair could do this film. And I think when it's calling the Coen Brothers a legendary writing and directing duo, I think that's useful in having a single point, a single film to point to and say that's where you want to look for to see why they are worth the hype.
I read a review back when it came out, and it was like, oh, have the Coens finally grown up? So it's taking everything that we love and then making the most adult version of that.
Interesting.
And I think it kind of is.
Because
the movie is funny.
They've gone the other direction.
There is comedy in here, like to the fact that, again, it's not that much of a hot take to say that you could slap this with a subgenre of comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so adult, and it's just a sharp knife. This film,
yep,
it's so good.
It's tight. It knows exactly what it wants to accomplish, and there's really no fat. I think if anything, that's shown in the runtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pushing beyond their usual comfort zone on the runtime. I think
Still
it's
2
worth
hours,
it.
though. Right,
Yeah.
still only 2 hours.
Right.
I think there's literally one scene that can be cut, and we'll get into it later.
Sure,
But
sure.
it's short. It's not going to make a difference for anything.
Yeah. But that is the last chance off the boat. I'm not used to warning for spoilers, so forgive me if I'm not used to giving a spoiler warning. But really, folks, the idea for this special was that this is worth your time so much that we want to kind of run this like we run the director studies to a certain degree, that there is no reason not to watch it. Come with it watched. And, of course, we're going to be kind of talking about this in totality.
Yeah.
For me, there is just so much to love about this film, and as will be the case for a lot of these must-watch films, it will be almost impossible to unpack every inch of them. It's difficult because, especially with this film, I found in watching this 3 times, the film is just as dreamy. There's a degree to certain lines that are just said for the sake of kind of creating an atmosphere, a feel to these characters.
Yeah.
I think 2 good examples of that are the line from Woody Harrelson about the missing 13th floor or whatever, or the 6th floor. And one that pointed out, I watched the first rewatch of this was with producer Joe Musk. We hadn't seen it before. He had a very valid question around why does Llewellyn forget his mother was dead? He says that, tell my mother I loved her. And she goes,
Such a good line.
Llewellyn, your mother's dead.
I'll tell her myself then.
Yeah. Badass for sure. But at the same time, it's like, why would this character forget about it? There's many moments in the script and in the performances that we get dreamlike aspects, and I think that is all in purpose to getting us where we need to go for those final moments with Tommy Lee Jones, where he's talking about dreams. He's having a little bit of a calm old man existential crisis. He's not really like manic in any way, but he's definitely having a crisis.
Right.
And there's just
grasping
so much
with mortality. And,
So that definitely plays into where I would say it's hard to unpack this film fully, but it also plays into an aspect that this film is unique because of these little flourishes, and that definitely plays into the many flourishes that the Coen Brothers infuse. Though this is more serious than ever, they never lose their voice. Though this is an adaptation, they never lose their voice, and I feel like that's such a good thing to point to for watching this film. In the case of No Country for Old Men, I love how deliberate items are in the story. How wounds need to be dealt with, and above all else, how the details matter. If I had to really boil it down to why this hits on it, to call it realism, to call it realistic isn't the right thing. It isn't the right area that I want to tune into. It's just how the details are almost highlighted as they would be in the actual screenplay of the story, highlighted almost like a video game in ways.
I was looking at the same thing, actually.
Yeah.
It's so well done. You're right, with the wounds being dressed. It is, you don't want to say hyper-realistic, but
because if anything, not like highlighting these specific items, whether it's the money briefcase, the guns he picks up, the truck he leaves behind, all these areas, I don't know, if anything, they're emphasized beyond realism in ways.
Right.
But achieve an aspect that the details matter. The details are everything to this.
And I think it's those little things, too, that we're watching there, we're picking up on. It's also a listening movie as well. But all that stuff helps with it being a thriller. And I don't really know how to break that down, but when you have such little details and when things stick out and when you're so glued to certain things, it pushes you into the screen. Like you're there, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think you hit on a great thing, because specific to the thriller aspect, sometimes that's something that the audience knows that the characters on screen don't, and that creates the dread. That creates the suspense. And we'll get into where I feel like asymmetric information only known to certain parties, whether that's the character or even in this case the audience, that's where the magic is around these details.
I like that,
I mean, it's covered in countless examples of this film, folks. When Llewellyn leaves his truck behind at the shootout site that he finds the bag of money in for the first place and is coming back after this crisis of conscience to give the guy agua, to give the guy water. it becomes a lead for others. Leaving his truck behind is not just something that is forgotten about. When Anton comes back now, linking into it now on the chase, he goes, "You got a Scroogey?" I love that he calls it a Scroogey.
Did he call this? He called it a Scroogey?
He goes, "You got a Scroogey?"
I don't know if I picked up on that. My favorite part of that scene is that one guy goes, "That's a dead dog," and Anton goes, "Yes, it certainly is."
But Anton strips the plates.
Yeah.
I would say when Anton is in every scene. It's minor, but he's tuned into these details as well.
Oh yeah, he's the detail guy.
For real.
Yeah,
for real. He's concerned about blood on the foot, on his boot prints. He's always taking off his socks,
which is super important for the end of the film. Yeah,
and why that matters. Because honestly, when you look at the film, does he ever get caught for footprints? Does he ever get caught for these aspects? No, but that's why he's not getting caught. There's a tension that is almost unacted upon in the film, and that's where I just love these little details.
I also want to say too that, and maybe it's even in your notes later. It's great to see that even though we're dealing with a chase, we don't have as much as just a Texas dummy. Josh Brolin is.
Right.
He's not, and he's actually extraordinarily competent.
Right, he's a hunter,
and he's a
little street smart for sure.
Oh, big time.
Yep.
And it's great seeing our three main characters be very intelligent, very competent. We love that.
Yeah.
Because when everyone's just doing their job very well, it makes the chase even more. I don't know. It makes the chase more engaging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like this movie sets a tone enough that if anyone was an idiot, per se, maybe like the mother that gives away the goat to the cartel towards the end, it takes a moment that those are consequences to this character.
Right.
Anyone slips up once, the consequences are acted upon almost immediately.
Right. It is the exact opposite of watching a slasher horror flick and the people go and trap themselves in the closet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Cabin in Woods.
Right. It is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
And in a way, we're going to get back to the details on screen, paying attention, just things are so intentional. I almost want to say that the film holds your hand through everything. But at the same time, it doesn't. It's like nothing is shoved down your throat or anything.
Right.
But everything is just presented to you exactly the way it needs to be and when it needs to be.
And as it matters.
It's dialed in.
Absolutely. I think another great example of this is how it plays into action scenes. The scratch marks of the briefcase in the vent. The light screwed off in the hallway as he comes into the hotel. The list goes on of these little details that you can call it realism. I'm not denying that you can't.
My mind kind of goes there.
Yeah, it is realistic, but I feel like it's also highlighted in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
It's hyper realism in a way that it's trying to take these little items and say, hey, pay attention to that. Even a real early one, he picks up the gun, the Colt from one of the cartel guys at the shootout. That comes into play then when he's running away from the dog. There's just so much there that
it's like you say when you're playing a very good video game where either you're picking up certain stuff or in certain cuts things are just highlighted on a little bit. Because you're moving along. It is like a game that is continuing, and it's the small stuff that really matters.
Exactly.
Or you need to pick up on it, or else whatever, this level's going to be way harder or something.
Right. Almost like for my gamers out now. No, I don't want to say that. I definitely don't want to say that. For people that would know, like a Resident Evil, there is maybe a survival aspect to these items being specific. That's part of what is to love, but also part. Or directly the explanation of why we call this film so tight and so focused.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I really got to jump in right away to Javier Bardem.
Okay.
I love that you found this study or the reports of this study that he's number one among psychos on screen.
400 psychiatrists or forensic psychiatrists or whatever.
I think it is top 3 psychos ever put on screen.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what. Yeah, it's tough to say. I think the top 3 is more so wiggle room of if I find a new one or if I'm forgetting something.
I have one.
Okay.
Because I had it in a category that's later.
Okay.
But I took it out.
Yeah.
I think a psychopath on screen would definitely have to go to Cape Fear, Robert De Niro.
Ooh, that's so good. You're dead on. You're dead on.
Thank you.
The menace of Anton Chigurh is only outmatched by the goofiness of his haircut. I would say part of this comes with what I'll call tools of the trade. I haven't really had to deep dive on what is the makeup, the chemical makeup of a good villain on screen, but I think it's tools of the trade. I think a good villain is often defined by the weapons they use. A good example of this is Darth Vader's force choke, Jack Nicholson's axe in The Shining. These are something that changes the silhouette on screen, something that is badass or confusing or terrifying in a lot of ways. And I think why Anton is so great is he has a lot of tools to the trade. There's not just one thing. Based on a good handful of these, the disturbing cow prod, used more than just to kill his victims. It's used as a utility to break in and whatnot. It's also then kind of set up, and even if you're confused by halfway through the film what that was, because it kind of goes away after a while, Tommy Lee calls back to it in the diner when he's talking about the steer kicking up. I would say the massive silencer on his shotgun, again, equally terrifying. I don't know where in the mid-'80s he's getting this can on this thing, but wow. I mean, it is terrifying. The sound it makes.
Yeah, it's a good sound.
The design, the lethality of it, so much. And I would say maybe most infamous at all is his bowl cut. I would put his bowl cut up there with, like, Darth Vader's breathing. It's something that on the first recognition of it, you see it as menacing. You see it as thrilling. This bowl cut is right away just such an unsettling aspect of this character.
Unsettling, yep.
Like, why would he be rocking this? What is going on here? But I would say my favorite when it comes to Anton Chigurh as a character and what Javier does in these scenes, if anything, probably the scenes he really won the Oscar for is the psychological toy of his lucky coin. I think there's 3 or 4 scenes brought up with this. And
you only see him flip it once.
Right. Well, no, at the end with Llewellyn's wife.
Oh, you do see him flip it. Okay.
Yep.
Maybe there's only 2 on screen then.
Yeah. But when it comes down to it, not only is it a great little device to give us more time with this psycho, Javier is just killing it on screen.
He really is.
I think this is in the legacy of his acting, what books him probably the villain in Skyfall. What's booked him like any kind of villain role.
Yeah,
wasn't he a villain in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean as well? He's basically
Oh man, that was a bad movie.
Oh, was it?
Oh
okay.
my gosh, was that a bad movie?
We'll have to go back to that eventually. But I feel like you want more time with him on screen, and this lucky coin psychological, torture almost that he does is just so satisfying, so menacing. When it comes down to big things that I say on other reviews, big things that we unpack on the podcast, like show don't tell, or I love villains and their introductions, it's all right here. And I feel like there's, again, just we've already given some spoilers already, but I feel like in this opening scene, if you have not seen this movie, this is one of the most brutal, flinching, crazy killings on screen of when he gets arrested and he just chokes the shit out of this cop. The scuff marks of his boots.
It's just such a good shot.
And another area where details matter.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Well, the way they sandwich it, the way they juxtapose it too, you have the intro with this soft-spoken, older West Texas man of Tommy Lee Jones, and goes into this.
Yes.
You know? You have ultimate good on, good side of the law, bad side of the law. It's just, it's beautifully, it's so crafted well.
Yep, absolutely. And as will be the case with almost every scene that we talk about, a full hat full tip of the hat to Roger Deakins on what he's doing with the camera work to sell these scenes. The scene as Javier's choking out this guy with his cuffs, and you see the almost the chaotic, gross spurt of blood out of nowhere.
Yes, yeah.
The damage he does to his own wrists, and then the look in his eyes. As I don't even know what he's looking at, in the actual set. It's unbelievable of how this villain is shown and not told to us even slightly.
Right,
I feel like the brilliance of this character is that we're constantly being shown how much of a psychopath he is. Yeah, other characters talk about him. Woody Harrelson gives us a little bit of insight into what he might be, and a glimpse of how the man operates as a real person in this world. But man, it's just so much there that I don't think there's a moment that he doesn't earn one of the best psychos on screen. He earns it by how we're shown that.
And it is every single scene delivering, and you might get a different angle of him here or there, but he is a psychopath.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And a brilliant entrance.
Yeah.
Nothing is flashy in this movie.
Right.
Like, nothing is major, nothing. And we're going to get into our favorite scene. Tommy Lee Jones sitting in a diner is not a great scene in any other movie. It's a great scene in this.
Right.
With this an entrance, there's
context.
almost zero talking. You know what I mean? It is just an entrance to a villain, and it's not flashy. There's not major explosions. You know what I mean? It's not a Joker character.
Right.
It is just this guy doing something and looking a certain way.
Exactly. And that's not to say that there can't be enjoyment in the Flash, in the razzle dazzle.
For sure. Yeah, of course.
I feel like, again, just with the proximity, I was thinking of Dark Knight quite a bit with this, and just like the films around this, especially before as well. And I mean, there's credit to a magnetic scene like in Dark Knight when he breaks into the bank.
They have their place for sure.
But here, there's just something special. How every scene is used to show that he's not letting, there's no normalcy to this character.
Mm-hmm, right.
I think another great one is when he's driving and the tracker hasn't been blinking yet. So he's kind of, he's frustrated and whatnot. He takes out his frustration and takes out, again, another silenced weapon. I don't know where he's getting these silencers in 85 or whatever. But he just shoots a bird out of nowhere. Second watch, I saw that scene. I was like, maybe we could cut that. Why is he even killing the bird? But it sells the frustration and the restlessness.
I took it as boredom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's got some time off almost, just driving around. And
what does he do? He
tries to shoot a crow off a bridge.
Yeah.
Also a callback, now very hard. I mean, watching that 3 times, every single time thinking about back to Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
With that bad guy on a motorcycle and he shoots rabbits as he comes down the road.
Right.
Shit like that.
Absolutely. That's a great, I mean, it's in the DNA of the Coen Brothers. And that, I think that's really my next note of how there's like soft comedic beats in this.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm laughing out loud sometimes.
Right.
It is just a little bit more of an adult. If everything else from the Coen is rated PG-13, which is not, but it feels like a rated R version of a Coen Brothers film.
Absolutely.
And man, is it funny.
Yep.
And some of that is writing, and so much of that is inflection and just the way the characters deliver it, the way the actors are doing.
The Coen weirdos.
Yes, yeah.
For sure. It's just, it's unreal how they're never able to lose the menace of Anton's character, still kind of sharing the spotlight for what Javier's done. I mean, you'd think in any other scenario, this goofy-ass haircut might sink the whole thing, you know what I mean? In the wrong hands, these little details might sink the whole thing of how we perceive this character. Yeah. But here, there's a balance. And I think it's also amazing because in the real comedic beats of who is interacting with Anton, it's the Coen weirdos. The comedy is directly kind of countering his menacingness.
Great bit parts.
Yeah.
I mean, the bit characters in this, everyone is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Every performance. And that, that goes for, we're not allowed to give out no information.
Yeah.
Did you not hear me?
Don't give out no information.
It's all gold. But and I'll go back to the comedy, by the way. Even with like Anton's haircut, I don't know. I don't focus too much on the hair. I get like it's a meme of itself. But I expect a psychopath to have greasy shit hair. You know what I mean? I
not care about physical appearance.
And the funny thing is when you're dealing with just a psychotic killer. there's parts where he is funny. Every character is funny. Woody Harrelson is funny, and Josh Brolin is funny. Tommy Lee Jones is funny, and even the serial killer on screen is funny because he says the word "screwy" or "friendo."
Friendo.
You know the face that he gives when he's leaving the gas station.
He's like, "Watch it."
Yeah, don't throw out the quarter. Don't put it in your pocket. It's a lucky quarter. If you and then it's gold.
It's so good.
But
good.
It's on a tightrope.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just beautifully staying up.
Yeah, a tightrope that I'm not sure the Coens could make again, honestly.
Or someone could make.
Right.
Could make, someone else could do that.
A little bit of right time, right place, a little bit of, you have a magic moment that you capture on screen. Even down to what you said with some of the pre-notes of like, maybe they thought it wasn't going to work and they found it in the edit, Like Fargo, like Raising Arizona, and like everything they touch, they don't lose their voice. And I feel like with what I understand about Cormac McCarthy's novel, it's that as well is very dreamlike. It's very ethereal.
And a dark comedy, from my understanding. Apparently there's some dark, gritty comedy in it.
Yeah. So having them adapt it, I feel like it would be very easy in that challenge to lose your own voice in just wanting to do right by the novel and by a already famous author by the time that's released.
In my understanding, too, they did a very good job at the source material. They didn't take their own privileges too much.
Sure.
So it really comes down to execution of the material.
Yeah.
That they managed to put their thumbprint on it.
Absolutely. And you find it in, these Coen weirdos. The no information, you choose the room and the applicable rate.
That's got 2 double beds in it.
It's got 2 double beds. The deputy, all hell's bells. They even shot the dog. It literally gets me every time. I don't know why. I just love it.
Literally every single one. Even the boot store guy. So
Yeah.
You always have guys come in here with no clothes on? No, sir. It's unusual. Everyone. Even, and then it's just like, I would say the most campy that they do is the border crossing guard.
Yeah.
But still,
right.
It's gold.
Yeah.
It's all gold.
Absolutely. And, and like we praised in the episode a few weeks ago, if you haven't listened, folks, I feel like that was a kind of a great appetizer to tuning into the Coen-ness of this. Their casting decisions are just on point. I think a great example is like the Vietnam vet at the guard station. It's like, yeah, that guy's like actually perfect to be like giving Josh Brolin shit about this right now. It's every inch of this film. It's almost too much to list categorically. It's something that needs to be experienced because it never slips once.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's just everyone 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and this goes on top of some of my curiosity of what some of our listeners, folks at home, what a first experience watching this was like.
Yeah.
So please write in. I'm very curious about that. But when it comes down to it, do you think the comedy is lost on a first viewing of this?
I would say I can only talk to my first watching, and because I can still remember kind of what it was. It wasn't as funny, but it was funny.
Okay, good.
But I mean, I'm like, by the third time I'm watching this, it's like I'm laughing my ass off at this film. Because it is, I mean, really.
Yeah.
But because that suspense is so real in that first watch, compared to all the others where you know what the deal is.
Yep.
You're sunk into that thrill. You're more on the edge of your seat. But that doesn't mean that there aren't funny little things here or there. Even just like Carla Jean being like, Llewellyn is like, what? Quit your hollering. It's just the small stuff of his name is Chigurh.
Yeah.
Sugar. Chigurh. Anton Chigurh. It's just... little stuff gets you smirking.
Yep.
But no doubt it's more funny the more you watch it because the thriller aspect just naturally takes more of a back seat.
True.
There's nothing like that first watch.
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
Like, what is going to happen to the gas station guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So true. Yeah.
The thrill.
So true.
The thrill is real.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even just calling heads or tails, pun intended, on who escapes Chigurh's kind of his nuts.
Yeah.
It's unreal. I would say one last note on the comedy is I love the scene where after Josh Brolin has just been gut shot and bleeding. I mean, he's in no condition to be alive. He wakes up on the Mexican border and he has the mariachi band playing to him. I really love that scene as a comedic scene, as a kind of a emotional scene, being on death's door. I love, once again, Roger Deakins, the silhouette work of him handing the bloody $100 bill to them and them reaching like kind of nervously, like, what the hell am I getting into? I just love that scene to death.
And I forgot to write that down. I have the quotes of what the actual mariachi band is singing.
Oh,
and
really?
And it all is based around Brolin's character.
Oh, really?
Like you're trying to
That's
make it to the
great.
top, or you're trying to get away, some type of thing. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I think that was the only scene that was shot in actual Mexico.
Wow.
And in Mexican City, yeah.
Yeah. And folks, if you're listening to this and you hear my genuine shock, there's still more to discover and love about this film. I've probably seen this film now 12 times in my life.
Wow.
And there's just so much to love here.
Yeah.
And so much to kind of reestablish and rediscover with it.
You know, I really can't. When I was watching it, I couldn't help to think about, and just as we're talking about it here tonight, it is so much why I love Whiplash. Many different reasons. You know, that episode would sound very different than this episode. But the simplicity and the way they tell characters and delve it out to you is just masterful.
Yep.
Both very low-budget films, both character-driven. Just the way it's shelled out is beautiful. Because, again, we're talking about this movie. It is not filled with explosions. It's not a 3-hour epic.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's very simple at its core.
Yeah.
It's just the delivery on all aspects.
Yeah.
It's just firing.
I think it also hits on why the comedy is a little bit of a minefield and could have just soured the experience so much. It's what we always talk about with how comedy in superhero films sometimes saps the stakes entirely.
Yes.
Like 100%. It strips it out. A root canal the stakes.
Yes, that is someone taking a baseball bat to your head.
Yeah.
This is like a scalpel in surgery.
Yeah.
I don't think the comedy could hurt for anybody.
Yeah.
Because it's as comedic as you really want it to be.
Sure.
A lot of people could watch this and not find two things funny. You know, just chuckle a couple times. It all depends how you kind of take it in. It's only as funny as you want to make it.
Yep.
And I think just with how many times we've seen it, and with doing deep dives on the Coen Brothers recently, like
we're tuned into those creative
exactly
choices.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, it took me. I didn't even really like the first time I saw it. Second time I saw it, I wasn't understanding Tommy Lee's character.
Oh, sure. I feel like that's everyone's
right
experience.
I wasn't getting how important it was. I wasn't getting. It's just like because people are talking about the movie's really about him. He gets top billing. Now I get it. You know, but the first time I put it on, it's like, oh, I get it. And like I said, by the third time, I'm just like, just give me all of his scenes. It's great. Just it's an awesome. As simple as the film is, it is an onion.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say among the many credits to this film, something I always love is when among all must-watches, among all great films, is when you can almost visualize the plot structure. It took a while for me to kind of unpack what I've always thought about this, but I've kind of visualized the script, the plot structure of this as a snake or a three-link chain. You have Llewellyn with the money being the head of it, you know, pushing the plot forward. That's the front of it. Anton going rogue, chasing it, and then Tommy as the third link, kind of chasing everything behind. Why I think it's also important to say, because Tommy does get top billing, because it's about Ed Tom Bell and him growing old in
it goes back to that poem.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to think about mortality. What does paradise look like in the future? What's at the end of this?
Right.
You know, at one crucial scene, not crucial scene, but in one scene, he's like, you know, I always thought that God would enter my life at some point, and he hasn't.
Yep.
You know, it's really about that.
Absolutely. And why I see it as kind of like a snake is that when Llewellyn dies, spoiler alert, when Llewellyn dies, I feel like on a first watch, you're like, oh, what? This is the main character. This is going on for another like 20 minutes. What's going on?
Yeah.
Is because that chain link collapses on itself, and we're ending with Tommy Lee. Does that kind of make sense as far as like the visual aspect there?
Yeah, I don't quite get, maybe more of a snake than a chain link.
Sure.
I guess I don't quite exactly see it, but you do see it.
I mean, you can even argue there's like 5 links or 5 sections to it when you add the two sides of the drug deal gone bad, both the cartel and like these business associates as well. But I would really just include that all in Anton's section of who's chasing the money.
Yeah.
It's the money, it's who's chasing the money, and then who's kind of
chasing both.
Yeah, exactly. Who's finding the messy after effect of it. When we finally see Llewellyn's story come to a close, we see the rest of the plot kind of collapse in on itself. But that, again, is where I encourage, especially for anyone that has seen this and is frustrated by how it ends, maybe is unsatisfied how it ends. That is where you find that Tommy is the main focus of taking a look at this vicious world of crime and seeing how this man has now grown out of it, grown too old for it, doesn't have the taste for it anymore. And it's a chase structure through this snake aspect. It's this chase structure that I love so much and shares my excessive praise that I have for the chase structure in The Revenant.
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
I have a note about The Revenant later.
Listen, I know where to play to this crowd in front of me. Maybe not the folks at home. But mention Lord of the Rings, mention The Revenant.
You're good.
Maybe
You're
Western. But
yes,
yeah, there's just something to that chase structure that you can almost visualize. Revenant, it's a little bit different. If when we cover that.
No,
film,
but I get it is a different sort of chase. But I get what you're saying.
You can visualize it. You can see, the structure to it, and I love it so much. I would say this plot structure also creates an aspect I love in the story, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier of information not equally known to characters. Something I'll call asymmetrical information. Llewellyn knows certain things. Anton knows certain things. We, as the audience, know certain things. This translates to how the action in this film is crafted and why it is so great. This will be kind of giving away the goat of my favorite scene in this, but the hotel shotgun shootout is probably one of my favorite action scenes ever put to film. And it's because of this interplay of what we know, who knows what, and not knowing all of the information all of the time. That is what's creating stakes in the scene, in the heat of the moment, and certainly that's what creates suspense among all of this. Like a real shootout, there's an incredible amount of misdirection in this heat of the moment. They don't ever get a good look at each other to the very end. Much of the shootout is repositioning and kind of setting up traps for each other.
Yeah.
And as this sequence bounces between the two of them, it's a dance of hunter and hunted, and then switching the roles of who's hunting who. And even just on a visceral level, I mean, making a double shotgun battle, I mean, yeah, the lethality is right there. You don't need anything else.
It's close. It's personal.
Yeah. It's so important. And the fact that we get a follow-through of this asymmetrical information, this who knows what and who doesn't know certain aspects, it's all over this film, and it's how the chase kind of stays along. But the fact that that plays into action as well is just such a masterful decision. I'll do another example of where I feel like this is done well, but in Dunkirk, when we don't see the Nazis, but we feel the gunfire, that's a micro version of what this is doing.
Great call out.
Yeah.
Because so right. It's sometimes I like it.
Yeah. Kind of to your notes around the setting, I feel like the setting adds substance to the thriller. We've talked about it on a few different reviews of choosing whether there's cell phones in your story or not. Or choosing, a time period and having that time period matter. This is in the 80s. This is not like your 80s nostalgia,
No. It's 1980s West Texas.
Yeah,
I mean, you talk about towns that people forgot back then. You know? That's kind of evokes a just large, open country.
Exactly. So having, little phones, no security cameras, dead-end towns, all amounts to what I kept on returning to as a phrase in watching this movie again, of a deadly nowhereville. That 1980s South feels near helpless, and much like we praised in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Should have said it first.
We're tuned in. As soon as shit starts going down, it sets in how helpless they really are.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like another thing, not to just gush over this double shotgun, the fact that they are popping off and no cops are coming.
Yeah. Add it into my hot takes a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You think that's where realism should have taken over?
It's like one of the biggest towns that we're in the film.
True, it's close to the border,
too. It still is like 1980. It was, 45 years ago. It's just like, really, wow. My biggest thing is like, no one's screaming.
Right.
No, just other people waking up, wondering what's going on.
Right, they're near a hotel.
Screams,
like,
car
clearly
crash.
It's a downtown area. You're like, yeah.
Little suspect on that one.
Sure. But I feel like it's the worth itness for it is in selling this thriller and selling this hopelessness that Llewellyn has no one to turn to.
There's no doubt. And there's other really small towns.
Yeah.
And then when you're just open country, it feels open country.
Absolutely. I want to end some of my praise on Roger Deakins. When I call him my favorite cinematographer, I mean, this is a great example of that.
Yeah.
I think visual storytelling is one of my favorite aspects of this film that absolutely plays into the details matter. That absolutely plays into Anton Chigurh just being visually menacing, on screen. The visual storytelling that happens in other parts, in the scene itself, it requires a lot of coordination behind the lens. An all-time great is, like I mentioned, when Llewellyn returns to the drug deal to get the guy water. His car pulls up on the horizon, cloaked in darkness just before dawn, and the tension of the scene really doesn't set in right away. If anything, it's kind of like, well, that was a waste of time, or, well, he's going to get beat. The moment of calm quickly turns into terror as a second silhouette pops up next to his car on the horizon and sparking one of the most amazing chases within the chase plot of the dog chasing him into the river. And it's just like, it never lets up. That chase scene is so anxiety inducing, like down to the moment where he's shaking the gun and blowing the water out just to get that last second shot. It really, really is something else. And I feel like a lot of that is set up by Deacon's cinematography of almost giving us the scare without saying anything. The scare of seeing that second silhouette on the horizon of that truck and then hearing the tires pop. It's like, this is some of the best things I ever put in a film. Like, this is the best.
Simple, but absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing about Deakins. It's a quiet film. When there's talking going on, it's a lot. It's intense. You're engaged with it. Sometimes it's funny, but also it's so much during the quiet moments, and you're relying on the shots. You're relying on Deakins, and that's him not going for crazy colors or doing fucking with lenses and stuff.
Sure.
I
mean, even in comparison to his work with Assassination of Jesse James the very same year,
Yeah.
there's a lot more going on there stylistically.
Yes.
Yeah.
But with this, watching it, I mean, this movie came out in 2007. I mean, it is 2024, and this film looks like it could have been made last year, and that says something. If you go back and watch A Dark Knight from 2008, it's starting to look like an old film.
That's so funny. And I think I'm with you.
crazy.
We've talked off the podcast about that, not in ways not holding up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're both shot on film.
Yep.
It's highly impressive. Highly impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. The film is really covered in excellent shots, but I want to give one more highlight, and it's at the very end of Llewellyn's story. I think another excellent shot is when Ed finds Llewellyn at the motel after he's had beer leads to more beers.
Yeah.
It just plays so much to the visual storytelling of the character. As you've made a point many times now, we see Tommy Lee Jones exclusively being stoic, exclusively being an old timer.
Yeah.
Just hitting you with stories constantly. He's always in diners. He's always eating. He's always in like kind of a leisure. The fact that on this last link of the story, finally when that snake or that chain link is collapsing in on itself and we all catch up to where we should be, catching the oldest news the entire film, he's been shot as a static, as a unmoving statue of a man, not shaken. Now, when he's getting out of this car and he fears the worst and he sees the cartel driving away, how do we show him? Some of the best used or the best implemented shaky cam that I've ever seen on film. I mean, this shaky cam, when he gets out of the police car, is like the Bourne Identity. Like, it might as well.
It's funny. I wasn't even... It is a shaky cam.
Yeah.
But because it's just really kind of off its main... there's not a big balancing thing attached to it.
Right.
That's funny. You're so right. It feels... I think it puts you in the scene.
Absolutely. You feel his footsteps. You feel the panic as he's approaching. And then the calm that comes over when he sees Llewellyn's body.
Yep.
And it sets in. And also... maybe not a very funny scene, but I always laugh at his like perfect Spanish that he whips out out of nowhere.
I know, so good. It's like De Niro doing his Osage.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, in the Oscars this year, best film editing goes to Bourne Ultimatum. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's so good. But it's a little moment like that you can tell that the cinematography is playing a very deliberate part in how we're consuming this story. The visual storytelling is there. And, with cinematography, it's one of those things where you don't really, unless you're really tuned in and you're looking for it, it is just a kind of a thankless piece. Yeah. It's a thankless job. So when it comes down to that, what Deakins has done and how deliberate he is, I mean, that goes right into what you were saying before, of that he's not taking a zoom lens around with him and
the
whatnot.
Intentionality of keeping it simple, keeping it real.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how that's playing into the story, I mean, it's all over this film, but those are two very, at the front and the end of the film, very, very big highlights for me, and why I go back time and time again. I mean, we even watched that Empire of Light movie. It really wasn't that good. I watched it for Deakins though, because I think there's a value add. There's something there that it's more than just filling a role or getting the job done.
Yeah, it's got its own voice almost.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll just make one note on top of that, because I don't really have anything else. We can get into our favorite scenes then. Mm-hmm. There is a musical score to this film, and it's done by Carter Burwell, I think. Yep. He's a very famous composer. Mm-hmm. But apparently when they were about to make the film and stuff, it was Brolin and the Coens were like, there can't be instruments used. It would be too foreign. So apparently it's a very quiet film. I love the fact that there's not constant music in the background like modern day films always have. It's 2 hours and 2 minutes, the movie. There is 16 minutes of music playing. Wow. And you will almost never hear it. All 3 times watching it, I never actually picked up on it. Sure. But apparently it's within the set of the films. It's using bells. Wow. Or even like when Tommy's talking at the end, he's part of the wind chimes. There is actually a score to the film. Wow. And you just don't hear it. It's wild and awesome at the same time. Yeah. Like, does it add anything or does it not? But it's in there. Yeah. Which is just crazy to think about. So he should be. He's a big composer, so I wanted to mention his name as well. Absolutely. But a crazy approach to doing a film that you want to be completely silent, but wanting to have a score. It's something I noticed as well. I forget who's pulling up. It's either Anton or it's Ed pulling up the day after to the drug site. Yeah. We get like a bass hit. Of him pulling up, and it almost sounds like something like foreboding or something bassy is going to happen, and then it just stops. And it's just like, wow. I mean, talk about like a little nice note. Exactly. And it's almost the absence of it that adds something. Exactly right. Exactly. So just a cool note there. But okay, Vin, let's get into favorite scenes. Okay. All right. So the problem is it's a 91%. We both love this film. Yeah. We're calling it a masterpiece. So every single scene is a favorite scene. Yeah. But let's go through some. Okay. And I'll just kind of go off. I have a bunch listed here. Sure. And if I'm missing stuff, just check me or whatever. I think we got to start with opening scene with Tommy Lee Jones' monologue into handcuff choking scene. Yeah.
You can't help but compare yourself against the old timers. Can't help but wonder how they'd have operated these times. There's this boy I sent to the electric chair at Huntsville here a while back. My arrest and my testimony. He killed a 14-year-old girl. Papers said it was a crime of passion, but he told me there wasn't any passion to it. Told me he'd been planning to kill somebody for about as long as he could remember. Said if they turned him out, he'd do it again. Said he knew he was going to hell. Be there in about 15 minutes. I don't know what to make of that. I surely don't.
Because it's so good, and we talked about earlier where you have this softness of Tommy Lee Jones and talking about the law, talking about the history of these towns, getting a sense of the area a little bit, and then going into this psychopath killer. It's such a good scene. Yep. Killed the 14-year-old girl. His accent is so good. He was a Texas boy. He was born in Texas. So it's and apparently it was almost all going to be shot in New Mexico. And the reason why they do some shots in West Texas and Marfa and stuff, it was because of Tommy Lee's push to do it. That's great. To the Coens. Yeah. That's great. I have when Josh Brolin stumbles on the bad drug deal.
Told you ain't got no agua. You speak English? Where's the last guy? Ultimo hombre, last man standing. There must have been one. Where'd he go? I reckon I go out the way I come in.
Cierra la puerta. Hay lobos.
Ain't no Lobos.
I mean, it's a classic. This is the Agua scene, which everybody knows.
And also, that's another great example of right before that, visual storytelling. Maybe not, that's probably found in the storyboard, but him following the blood of the deer he shoots and then seeing a intersecting line of the dog bleeding.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he goes the opposite way of the dog.
Right,
He knows the
because
dog
the dog's
is running away from
something.
something.
Details matter,
Yeah,
you know?
it's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. I love when he comes back with the goods then.
Yep.
And just talking to Carla Jean. I can't put it in favorite scenes.
Right.
But it's so good. Just
I'll
quit
take
your
you
horn.
back. Yeah, I'll
Right.
take it back. It's a tough talk. It's
I'm
great.
going to take you back and screw you.
Yeah.
And then even when he wakes up then, and then when I'm saying he's dumb but smart, she's like, what are you doing? Where are you going? He's like, I'm fixing to do something stupider than hell, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Then he makes the mother comment. It's so good.
Yeah.
Then I just labeled it car chase, dog chase scene.
Yeah.
Which is when he goes back to the crime scene.
Yep.
I kind of have this for a bit of a hot take. He gets chased by the dog, goes into the river and stuff. Would the gun have fired? He takes the gun out.
He gives it a good
he
couple blows.
He takes the first bullet out.
Yep.
Right, correct?
Yep.
And then he blows, then he puts it back in. Do you
Yep.
think it would have fired? A
I
pistol
think-
after being in water.
I wonder about the magazine. He's only really flicking the magazine.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a Colt 1911,
It is.
most reliable gun in the world. Yeah, I think that's more so about just the tension of the scene rather than the realism to it. you know?
Right. I go straight into gas station coin toss.
Yeah.
Well, I got to close now.
You live in that house out back.
Yes, I do.
You lived here all your life?
This is my wife's father's place originally.
You married into it?
We lived in Temple, Texas for many years. Raised a family there in Temple. We come out here about 4 years ago.
You married into it?
That's the way you want to put it.
I don't have some way to put it. That's the way it is. What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Call it.
Which this is up there for favorite scene. We'll go
Yeah,
into
right.
which one's our actual favorite.
Right.
But
This is also the first time we see Anton speak as well, because he's
is it?
completely
Yes.
silent for the.
No, that's
first-
not true.
Oh no!
Would you get out of the car, sir? Could you just hold still?
Get out of the car, please. Yep.
But I mean, the quarter scene, it's just. I think a lot of people, when they think of the movie, they think about this.
Yes.
This is the Oscar scene that they show. You know what I mean?
Call
it. And everything in it is hilarious.
Yeah.
Not hilarious. It's just so well done. The gas station manager is he's acting so well. It's
You're right.
unreal. It is unreal.
Yeah. And then just how in his ignorance he's stumbling deeper into pissing Sugar off.
Yes.
And that
When he coughs on his peanut,
yeah.
you married into it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
He's so disturbed that he did not make his own in making this for himself. It's so great. And I feel like that scene gets better with the rewatch, because what I see what I think of when I watch that scene is how Woody explains he's a man of principles. So that little cough after hearing this man didn't make it on his own, he married into it.
Yeah.
That it just all clicks together as wow, this is, you now see the outline of what his code of ethics, if you will, is.
Yeah. It's so good. And that guy we lived in Temple, Texas. It's so good.
You really feel bad.
You feel so
Yeah.
bad for the guy. It's like, come on, not this guy, dude.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
do it. I have Tommy Lee then going to the site,
Yeah.
and that's the dog scene. Where
Yeah.
What's the line? How's it go?
Oh, hell's bells. They even shot the dog. That might, honestly, it might be crazy to say. That really might be my single favorite line from the movie.
Really?
It just always gets a laugh out of me.
I almost took that out of favorite scenes, but I put it in because I think it's important. There's some good Tommy. I'm telling you, every single scene with Tommy Lee is a
Yeah,
favorite scene.
absolutely.
It's unreal,
And-
and he always says something smart and witty.
Yeah, yep.
Even so, and I don't even have
It's
it on
that
here.
old timer aspect. He has
Yeah.
wisdom to him.
I don't even have it in favorite scenes, but when they then go to Llewellyn's place,
Yes.
and then he goes, "Oh shoot, it's still sweating." Well, shit. And then that's when he goes, "Oh shit,
yeah.
we just missed him." But then he's like, "Do you think this guy, Josh Brolin, has any idea what kind of trouble he is in?"
Yeah, right.
And he's like, "Well, I would hope so. I assume so. He's seen everything I've seen, and certainly made an impression on me." It's just like you know what I mean? It's
great.
wit. It's great.
Oh man.
Anton, very quick scene of Anton tries to figure out where Llewellyn works.
Yeah, yep.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking for Llewellyn Moss.
Did you go up to his trailer?
Yes, I did.
Well, I'd say he's at work. Do you want to leave a message?
Where does he work?
I can't say.
Where does he work?
Sir, I ain't at liberty to give out no information about our residents.
Where does he work?
Did you not hear me? We can't give out no information.
In essence. Did you not hear me?
We ain't giving out no information.
And then one of my favorite scenes is the first diner scene.
Lab reports from Austin on that boy by the highway.
What was a bullet?
There wasn't no bullet.
Wasn't no bullet.
Yes, sir. There wasn't none.
Well, Wendell, with all due respect, that don't make a lot of sense.
No, sir.
You said entry wound in the forehead, no exit wound.
Yes, sir.
You telling me he shot this boy in the head and then went digging around in there with a pocket knife?
No, sir, I don't want to picture that.
I don't either.
And the first time that there for you, Sheriff.
Yeah, Noreen, you better had.
It wasn't a bullet. And one of my favorite scenes, or one of my favorite lines in the entire film then, is when he goes, are you telling me he shot the man in the head, went digging around with a pocket knife? And he's like, oh, sir, I don't want to think about that. You go, I don't either. And then the waitress comes up, he goes, can I freshen it up for you, Sheriff? He just goes, yeah, Maureen, you better have. Just being like, it's
so great.
It's so good.
Is that the one where he's like, I laugh myself sometimes too?
No, that's later. That's later on. But just like, yeah, it's just can't figure out how there was not a bullet and how this wound happened. Yeah, better freshen me up, Marlene. So good.
In that aspect, that's the magic of Fargo showing. It's
Right.
It's I don't know how I would even describe it. The weirdo, the Coen weirdos that come
And it
through.
is.
Yeah.
I don't either. I have the beep beep scene. A lot of my favorite scenes are, I think, front loaded.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that,
I
we're kind
agree.
of going through the entire film
Absolutely.
so far.
Yeah, beat for beat.
But the beep beep scene where I can't even clip some of these because sometimes there is no talking.
Yeah, right.
But when the transponder is finally lit, and then he books a hotel room, and then he's looking at the same map that Josh Brolin was, but all that's dynamite. The stuff with he finds the Mexican cartel,
Yeah. What does he say to the taxi driver? I don't want to get in a showdown.
the taxi driver is just like, I don't want to get in some jackpot here,
You
fella.
jackpot.
You're already in jackpot. I'm trying to get you out of here.
Yeah, so good. Oh man.
And then hotel scene with Anton and Llewellyn crossing paths for the first time.
Yes.
Again, there's zero speaking. There's
Yes.
zero talk, so it's just hard to clip, but it's just so well orchestrated.
And
It's
what I
crazy.
mean by about asymmetrical information,
Yeah.
To the audience, the tension is oh wow, Anton found him, he's coming up. Also, Llewellyn's like in the vent, it's like an awkward position. If he enters the door, he's gonna get got.
Yeah.
And the interplay of how we're misdirected, and it's that, oh no, the cartel is in his room, and Llewellyn then hears this and then gets out just in time.
Yeah, it's
that is in the plot, and it's also in the action. It's just
I know,
phenomenal.
it's so good. And I put this in here for you, the drugstore truck explosion, and Javier has to mend himself. I know you always like that scene where he has to mend himself, and he's got the little the hot coil in the mug.
Yep.
But that's him, like him doing like surgery, straight up surgery on his leg.
Yeah.
It just looks great.
Right.
It's very, very good.
And so much in another film would be cut for time. So much in another film would it be like, do we really need this? That's where like my second point was wounds matter. You know what I mean? Nothing is forgotten.
And you get to see the genius of this guy too.
Yeah.
He's okay with taking the time to make himself right because he'll be on the trail soon enough.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a genius to it. I have Woody Harrelson and Brolin meet for the first time at the hospital.
Yep, classic.
It's just so good, those two going at it.
Yeah.
I'm across the river at the Hotel Eagle. Carson Wells. Call me when you've had enough. I can even let you keep a little of the money.
If I was into cutting deals, why wouldn't I just deal with this guy, Sugar?
Oh, no. You don't understand. You can't make a deal with him. Even if you gave him the money back, he'd still kill you just for inconveniencing him. He's a peculiar man. Might even say he has principles that transcend money or drugs or anything like that. He's not like you. Yeah. He's not even like me.
No, he don't talk as much as you. I give him points for that.
Absolutely.
It's just like, well, you don't talk as much as you. I'll give him that. Great.
Yeah.
And apparently that's when Woody's fumbling through his lines, which is hilarious.
Really, that scene? Okay,
I believe so.
Interesting.
Because Brolin.
You kind of see it when he's like, he's some kind of
He's trying to think of
psychopath.
right.
Yeah.
But it works so well.
Wow.
Harrelson and Javier meet in the hotel room.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And
Well, I
then,
mean, that's the kickoff of. No, I'm sorry. When they are talking, that's after the hotel
correct.
shootout. Yeah.
I love, just like, again, another bit part that I love, just Javier gets the car from the chicken guy, and he's just like, I just want to roam around the upper 48 or something like that.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah, I've been there, brother.
You have guys like sympathizing with this guy, like truly just nice people helping him out.
Right.
And just Javier does not care.
Yeah. Can you get those chickens crates out of the cage? Yeah, it's so good.
I don't even have that scene where Tommy Lee Jones stumbles upon Josh Brolin and the dead scene, because it's a powerful scene kind of, but to me the point is that the action is off screen. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
my next favorite scene is when it's him and the El Paso sheriff together.
Oh, sure.
It's all the goddamn money, Ed Tom. Money and the drugs. It's just goddamn beyond everything. What's it mean? What's it leading to? You know, if you'd have told me 20 years ago, I'd see children walking the streets of our Texas towns with green hair, bones in their noses, I just flat out wouldn't have believed you.
Signs and wonders. But I think once you quit hearing sir and ma'am, the rest is soon to follow.
Oh, it's the tide. It's the dismal tide. It is not the one thing.
Not the one thing.
You know what
Kind
I
of
mean?
debriefing on everything.
Yeah, just the dismal tide. I love when he goes, it ain't the one thing. Ain't the one thing. It's really good.
But also, I feel like that scene is a standout for me just because it really brings home that the cartel is kind of hidden to all of us. I mean, you obviously have them talking to the grandma, but how when the cartel sneaks into the motel, the room the first time, and then now getting the successful hit on Llewellyn, that's again another aspect of where this like suspense, this thriller, it all comes from what we know and what we don't know. And I will admit that in ways it plays into an unsatisfying angle. Would I love seeing Llewellyn put down the beer and shoot the cartel guy that's crawling out and an Uzi going off? Sure, would have loved to have seen that, but it's about what we don't know and why that's scary, why that's a chase.
It was the first time I watched it was unsatisfying.
Yeah.
The more I watch it now, the more I like it because I'm understanding the story so much more and how just Tommy Lee Jones centric we actually are,
and where we need to tune in. You know, what are the details we need to hone in on?
Exactly. So last two scenes I have as far as favorite scenes is the scene with Carla Jean and Javier.
Okay.
And then Javier gets hit by the car.
Absolutely.
Very good and just
very sudden.
I first watched it thinking that he lets Carla Jean says it right. But then it's like, oh, no, he checked his shoes.
Yeah,
and we all know what that means now.
Yep.
Just brilliant. Again, you pay attention a little bit. It rewards you. And then last scene with Tommy, just like how it starts with Tommy, it ends with Tommy.
It was like we was both back in the older times. And I was a horseback, going through the mountains of the night, going through this pass in the mountains, It was cold, and there was snow on the ground. He rode past me and kept on going, never said nothing going by, just rode on past. And he had his blanket wrapped around him and his head down. When he rode past, I seen he was carrying fire in a horn, the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it, about the color of the moon. And in the dream, I knew that he was going on ahead. And he's fixing to make a fire somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold. And I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. And then I woke up.
He's talking about a dream, but it's really about he's soon about to be in heaven with his dad once again, essentially.
Right, going on ahead,
right,
kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, in ways that scene has only compounded, has only meant more to me as I've gotten older. Because, I mean, I've watched this probably first time when I was like 16 or something like that.
Right, yeah.
So it really didn't hit in a way. But now, I mean, as you get older, it kind of just becomes more and more real. And especially as I get more attached to Ed Tom Bell as a character in this film as well.
I mean, there's another huge dialogue where he goes to see like another old sheriff or something like that. I didn't have it in there. It's a good scene, but it just piles on to this idea of Tommy Lee.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just all benefit to that. But
Yep.
that's pretty much what I have. I don't think I was missing anything.
No,
Again,
that's
it's more than half the film.
That's good. That's good. I would say one thing that I want to circle back to is just again what we love in competent characters and what that does to making a compelling story, a stakes to the story. You could see Tommy Lee Jones' character as maybe incompetent. He's the last of the link. He is always finding the information after it's gone stale. But a perfect example is when he's coming up in the shootout, and you know they find the shootout, and he's with his deputy. He's counting through the bullets, and he knows what all the bullets are.
45 ACP, couple
slugs.
Right.
Yeah. You know, that still ensures to the audience that this is a guy that knows what he's doing.
He's a competent guy.
Exactly.
Right. He's exactly right. Yeah.
I just love little moments like that. That Tommy he proves himself, even though he's last in the link. He's maybe understands the least among every party in the story.
But he's calling everything at the same time.
Very
Even
true.
talking to Carla Jean and stuff, giving her a warning.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gold. You're so right about like he's not a bumbling old little sheriff that's down on his way or whatever.
We don't compromise the character for a joke, or we don't compromise anything, even though his role is to kind of be behind the eight ball.
Right. Okay, so those are favorite scenes. Let's go real quick. Hot takes or problems with the film. Let's start with what would make the movie better. So my two main questions are, would it be better to have Josh Brolin's death on camera? And could you actually make it a bit shorter?
I think if you do have Brolin's death on camera, maybe that's you cut the last little bit of it then. You cut the aftermath.
It makes Tommy Lee less important.
Yes, exactly.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think more satisfying, certainly. It's tough. I would say, I don't know.
Up until this week, I would have said have his death on camera.
Right.
I'm now the opposite way.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I'm right there with you. It's more so... I want one last action scene. You know what I mean? Especially with how the action is done. Especially if it was kind of them creeping up or the cartel creeping up and him seeing something out the window. There's just such smart action to this film that I would love another shootout. So. And
could you have made it shorter? The one scene, there's just a random scene where he is at Tommy Lee is back at the jail sheriff's office. And he sees a truck going by, and this is the truck that had to go out in the desert and pick up dead bodies.
Yep.
And then Tommy goes, "What the hell?" Pulls him over, and he's like, "You get your ass out of here."
You gonna wrap me up, sure?
I don't think that added anything.
Right.
To me, that was the solo scene that wasn't connected to anything else really in the film of importance.
Sure.
But that's like it's 1 minute.
Yeah, barely.
You know?
And it does show that. I mean, well, I guess you're not really questioning the principles of Ed Tom Bell at any point in the film. But yeah, I'm with you there. Also, the like we mentioned, the silencer when Anton shoots the bird out of boredom or out of psychotic, restlessness.
But at least to me, that's character building.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? Because we're still early on with him.
Right.
But other than that, it's just like, man, I can't trim off this film, which is for us very impressive.
Repeat. Problems with the film.
Yes. Any hot takes? Problems with the film?
So this is definitely off the back of wanting just out of the satisfaction angle.
Yeah.
One last action scene in the final night scene in the motel with Tommy and Javier. It's tough because I don't know for sure what the Coens' intentions were. This is, of course, the scene where Ed Tom Bell comes back to the murder site of Llewellyn.
Oh, yes.
And he sees the lock being cattle prodded, or post that, and he searches it. It's hard to call heads or tails on it because is that Anton being behind the door and sneaks out when Tommy is in the bathroom? Or is it another intentional misdirect like earlier in the film, matching the tension we see in the first motel scene of, oh, Anton's right there, but he's actually not there, and he's in a different room or something like that. What do you think?
The more I think about it, I think that it has to be because before Tommy goes into the bathroom, he checks the closet,
yes,
which Anton is apparently in. Right? We think that he's in the closet,
or behind the door, or yeah, it's tough.
So basically, I think that once again, Tommy has just missed him. The milk is still sweating.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean?
Nice. I like that.
That's how I take. I assume it's almost like somebody else walking by, or somebody else pulling into the lot, and Anton just having to like take a moment. Who is this? And literally him probably showing up within moments.
And it can be a little bit of column A and column B. The same effect of setting up the audience to having tension on something and then releasing that tension.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The window lock is locked.
Is locked too.
Yes. Yeah. So we know we didn't go okay.
Yeah. So.
All that visual stuff is so key for putting a puzzle together.
That's when sitting down to review this and kind of write notes on something that I love so much already. It's a difficult process to kind of unpack that. It really came down to it's about the details. This movie is about details.
Yeah.
You know.
Any more problems?
Not that that's a problem, but that's really the only one that I would say is
what's going on here.
Tough to decipher, even after so many rewatches.
Yeah.
You know, what exactly is being communicated there by the Coens?
Okay, so I said most of mine. There Will Be Blood got a raw deal. Another of the genre could be tagged with comedy,
and the nowhere-ness of the hotel shootout. That no screams, no cops, no nothing.
Yes, right. That one exactly right. Yeah. Even like the first motel where Anton has it with
the cartel.
Yes. Where are the other motel people not freaking out? Where's the woman in the office not freaking out?
True. At least she's there. You know.
You know what I mean? It's just where. I mean, there's an Uzi going off as a guy dies, basically, and it bothers me that there's no. Anton has time to sit down and take his socks off and open up the grate or whatever. It's just that to me is just not realistic enough. Just like when him and Brolin go at it, there's just so much going on outside, and it's dead quiet in a town that actually seems relatively large.
Sure. I mean, there's other cars parked, so at least with the first motel, it's a dead parking lot. Later at the hotel, I mean, or the real hotel,
right?
Shootout.
The big hotel, The only other thing I asked about the gun in the river. We'll just say that it works. And then the one thing that I actually had that I noticed when Josh Brolin gets a shot on Anton, Josh Brolin runs up to the car, sees that he got him because there's blood, right? And then he picks up his gun.
He picks up the pistol that he shoots the bird with.
That's the pistol with the silencer.
Yep.
Okay, just looked large then.
Yeah.
Because later Anton still has his massive silencer rifle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get that back.
Yeah. As far as Anton's equipment, he's got the cattle prod, he's got the silent shotgun, he's got this like pistol with a clip. Like it's
okay.
big, but that's also silenced.
I got confused. Okay. So that checks out. And then that's all with hot takes or problems with the film. I have two other fun facts actually.
Okay.
So in the gas station flipping quarter scene,
Yep.
when he takes change out of his pocket and he pulls a quarter out. There's another quarter in his hand, and if you look at it, it's very red, and it almost looks like dry blood. But apparently, back in like late 70s, early 80s, the big arcade days, arcade owners used to paint a quarter red.
Wow.
So if you're playing a machine or you put money into a machine and it eats your quarter, you go up, you let them know, they give you a red quarter. So then at the end of the night, when they open up the machines to count how much they made, they know the red quarters aren't profit.
Wow.
Or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's in Anton's change pile.
Wow. And definitely that is attention to detail that the Coen Brothers
It's
would
awesome.
tune into.
And they were, because they're probably kids playing arcade in the 80s, and that's like something. It's like, let's throw one of those quarters in.
It's awesome.
The only other thing I have is Kevin James on like 3 years ago.
Wait. That's the twist. King of Queens?
So yeah, 3 years ago he like tried to build up a YouTube video a bit, but he had these bits called like Kevin James Sound Guy, and he would just green screen himself into famous movies and have a bit. So he takes the place of the gas station guy with Antoine. So first he's just like, "Oh, you want to run lines with me? You want to run lines?" And at the end, and it's very funny and actually really well done. And that's just so it ends with Kevin James going, "How did I do? Did I do okay?" And Anton gives the face like, "Whoop."
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, all right. It's pretty funny. If you want to check out Kevin James, Sound Guy in No Country.
That's great.
It's pretty good. Okay, so other categories here, Vin. I have what roles would you replace and with who?
Well, I think I do lean.
We're getting into the fun categories now. These are,
maybe out of curiosity, but also just to give another feather in his cap. I kind of would like to see Heath Ledger.
Really?
Replace, yeah. Just because. I don't know. I mean, it would be an incredible run for his acting career. To
roll
be
back
starring
this and then
and then Dark Knight.
See,
And also I think I'm with you in the sense that Brolin strikes such a perfect chord of simple and street smart.
Yeah, and cool.
Hunter.
Like
For sure. I love the scene where he finally gets the briefcase back and he's calling his wife and he's just leaning.
Yes,
he looks so cool, but then it sets in. It was just like, oh, he's just like really hurt.
Yeah,
like he's been shot like a good 7 times with like peppered, shotgun. It's so good.
He's so funny too. Like, oh my god, when he puts her on the bus to go, and she's like, I got a bad feeling about this. He's like, well, I got a good feeling, so that evens out.
Yeah.
It's so good.
His sass.
Ledger would be interesting. I just feel like he would have to put on some muscle or something.
Yeah, it's more just. I don't know, not like shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it would be something that I would be very curious to see in an alternate reality. We could peek into the what Ledger would do.
Right.
Going down the list. Well, first, any swaps for Josh Brolin?
No, that's the thing. I thought he was going to be the easy one. I've got nothing for Josh Brolin.
Fair enough. And Tom Bell instead of Tommy Lee Jones. I have one. It's kind of not a better choice, but more so because I had to cook something up. I said J.K. Simmons as the old timer aspect.
I wasn't expecting that.
Parker.
J.K. Simmons now or J.K. Simmons in 2004?
I guess it would have to be in 2004.
I want to keep the same time period.
Yeah.
But the good thing is he doesn't age. He's always like
he
always seems like he's 45.
Yeah, but I feel like he could really conjure the emotion in the crisis moments, but also have this just like kind of funny old timer aspect.
Maybe a bit too young, but damn, that's really good.
Who do you have for Tom Bell?
I have 4
for
Tommy Lee Jones.
And you said he was his favorite. Like
so. One, I think, I don't know. They were just coming to me left and right. So 2004, one that I think would not do a good job, but I could see people just grabbing is Harrison Ford.
True.
I could see Harrison Ford doing a worse job because Tommy Lee Jones is a better actor than Harrison Ford.
Right, and Harrison Ford doesn't try, so.
Right. It's funny. I was watching a little bit. I was watching Cowboys and Aliens. Because it's on Netflix. It's guilty pleasure.
Yep.
But I remember who directed that. The guy.
I think Favreau.
Yeah,
right?
Favreau directed it. I remember him doing an interview.
Yep.
And they were like, "Oh, what's it like to work with Harrison?" He's like, "Oh, Harrison's amazing." He goes, he showed up on set with his helicopter. He landed. And he goes, "Where's the camera?"
That's awesome.
Okay, so Harrison Ford, but there's 3 that I actually really, really like.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so I'll go with the one, Paul Newman.
Sure, I'm down with that.
2006 Paul Newman, he does look pretty old.
Sure.
But with some makeup, he would do really well. I don't know the strength of his voice.
Accent work, I just wouldn't know.
Paul, because he was in Road to Perdition. and that was 02, I think, or 04.
Yeah.
And then the only thing I know in 2006, I'd want to go back and listen to it, but he plays a character in Cars. And
That's right. Yeah, he plays Hudson or whatever.
One of like the classic.
Yeah.
But I want to see the strength of his voice. But I think Paul Newman would be awesome. Yeah. Obviously, Gene Hackman.
Oh no, I'm overriding Gene Hackman.
What?
I don't know. Really?
Gene Hackman is phenomenal.
Okay.
I mean, Gene Hackman is so good, and he's all well. Gene Hackman famously retired from acting in 2004.
Oh, okay.
And his last movie was alongside Ray Romano in Welcome to Mooseport. And I almost hold it against Ray. It's like, is that why Gene quit? Is that why Gene Hackman quit acting? Maybe he would be a little bit too old. Still alive today. I think it's 93.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Gene Hackman. And then I got to be honest with you. One that I could totally see working in 2004 is Danny Glover.
Ooh.
So you take
already has that old timer
I'm
aspect.
Too old for this shit. You know, just
pun again.
But it's literally like, think about. I mean, definitely a little bit of him in Lethal Weapon, but Danny Glover in Predator 2, he's always showing up to things late. He's missing the action, and he's getting like frustrated. You know,
he's sweaty. he's in Texas.
It's right. It's 10 years. It's 15 years later, and just set him in West Texas.
I
think Danny Glover would be a pretty freaking good job.
Fantastic. I would love him seeing Anton. He goes, "You are one ugly motherfucker." And it's just Predator 2 lines.
Right. It's just that, and I'm getting too old for this shit. But in West Texas, I am getting too old for this shit. So I thought that was pretty good.
That's dynamite.
Anton Chigurh, Javier's character.
I don't really have anything meaningful. I really tried to think of this, even to the point of like with the Mark Strong stuff. I don't know. It's in Javier's Spanishness, you know. I mean, it's
or Englishness,
right. It sells this, I don't know, otherworldliness to his character.
Do you think anyone? So you had nobody.
No one.
I had. It wouldn't be the same performance, but I did have Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, that I like,
because he could have done something. He has, Where's the Rabbit Foot's voice?
Yep.
And just
Where's the Rabbit?
Definitely give him a crazy haircut. He'd be happy.
Put a bomb in your head,
right? I think he could have made a good psychopath.
Yeah,
and a guy without feelings, without emotion.
I think calling it to his role in Mission Impossible is pretty close, actually, because it has that same like unpredictability,
not caring about people, human beings,
exactly.
So that's what I had. That's the only one I had. Okay. And I had nothing for him for a while. But then I thought Philip Seymour Hoffman, 06? Yeah,
absolutely.
There's something there.
Absolutely.
There's something there. Okay, so next category is...
I have...
Best Doubleheader.
Yes, Best Doubleheader and Trilogy.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
So doubleheader, what goes best with this? What would you watch with this?
All right, so my best doubleheader...
do you have a few, or do you have...
No, I have 2 trilogies. I tried to limit, because I really want... I mean, this was fun to...
I know. It's our first one, so we can give ourselves a bit of a leash.
But I really tried to, go quality over quantity. My best doubleheader comes down to probably for the greatest hitman put on screen, and I got to pair this with Leon the Professional, because you have Javier being a manic psycho, and you have Gary Oldman being a manic psycho in Leon. Man, those two really are just in the running of just some of the most like just wonderful psycho villains to see on screen.
Yeah. Well, that's why. So originally I had. I have a few for this one.
That's all right.
Originally I had. That's why I had Cape Fear.
But
I don't actually think it would be a good. He's so crazy. He's such a different psychopath.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I said
both motivated by principle, though.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of psychopaths are though in film.
Yeah. True.
I said, by the way, besides There Will Be Blood does not count, because obviously that's just a natural doubleheader.
Yeah.
I had Heat.
Oh, yes.
because
the bullets matter.
I have, for the same West Texas feel, I could say you could also do Hell or High Water.
Yep.
Also a chase.
You dip it into one of my trilogies.
And then I had, this is funny timing, because I literally just put this on the site after I wrote this down. Originally, I had The Hunted on here. It came out in 2003, and it's Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones fighting. But I'm like, it is not well regarded at all on the internet. You gave it like the best score with a 64.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, maybe I want to put that on.
Yeah, that was in my Movies on the Road episode. I remember that. Yeah.
But I would put Heat probably as number one.
Ooh. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. I would say almost just great gun work is the doubleheader right there.
And it's a chase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True,
Al Pacino,
true.
you know what I mean? You're chasing
Absolutely.
bad guys.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go into, if you had to put, I just call this unofficial trilogy.
Yeah.
So if you had to put this in a trilogy, what movies, where would you put this in the lineup, and what would the trilogy be called? Like, why?
Sure.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have two. One, because everyone loves doing unofficial trilogies among directors. So I think
Oh,
the first
yeah,
is
I
the
mean-
Coen Brother trilogy, and I think it's. I was looking at all the filmography, and I was like, what is the three? And I think it's Raising Arizona, Fargo, and then No Country.
Wow. Okay.
More so just because it's funny accents
Yeah,
across
yeah.
all three.
Yeah.
Obviously getting darker as you progress through each of them. We go very light and then a little darker and then really dark. But looking at their filmography, I think that really is my. It's the Coen Brothers crime trilogy.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at there.
Okay. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that, I think other films, they have the balance of comedy. They maybe even have some darker ones with some.
You don't think crime is almost through all their films? Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Right, it is through all their films. This
Okay,
one,
okay.
it's specifically about bags of money crime. You know?
Apparently the same bag of money.
Yeah, exactly. My next one is kind of a joke, kind of real.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt like this was low-hanging fruit. So I'm hoping we don't have the same, because it felt like the algorithm of everywhere I looked online of these two were paired with it.
Please. All right.
I'll call this the Big Tex trilogy of Sicario, Hell or High
Okay.
Water, and No Country.
I was thinking Sicario as well. That's great. That's really good.
It's all like south of the border. It's like all about Texas border.
Yeah, just that West Texas vibe feel.
Yep.
So that's pretty good. Those are good trilogies. So my trilogy I call the Country Chasing trilogy.
Okay.
So first I would put The Searchers.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Then I have No Country.
Uh-huh.
And then I have The Revenant.
Oh, nice.
And The Revenant's, again, it's a different kind of country. It's more mountainous.
Yeah.
But it feels, there's a realness to it. You know what I mean? You're
Absolutely.
engaged into the screen.
Absolutely.
So I kind of have that there.
And props for including the searchers.
I know. I felt good about that one.
Brownie points for Scorsese listening to this episode.
Oh, shit. Okay. And I think, do we have any more for you?
No, I think that's it.
We go into Tom's questions for Vin.
Oh, is that the second?
Yeah, but this is the last. Yeah, so the idea. Okay, last sex category.
Okay.
I just wanted to surprise you so you could think on your feet.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't
love that.
want you thinking about things too
I was,
much.
right, I was already thinking way too much for this episode.
And I don't have too much here, but Tom's questions for Vin's here. I have the Coen Brothers, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Tommy Lee Jones. Who's most important?
I think this many watches deep, it's Tommy. I think your first watch of this movie, it's Javier Bardem.
Okay.
Just
okay.
because he's the visceral aspect, he's the mover, you know what I mean? He's the action.
Well, I think what the question really is who can't you take out? Who's the least replaceable?
I still think it's Javier. But you have the Coen Brothers in this
Well,
running,
yes,
and I
I
think
do.
that's the real answer because it's like this movie is their DNA.
Who's least important? Because I just keep on going back to Josh Brolin.
Yeah, I think it is.
And it's sad to
maybe-
say, like, no one's not important.
Right,
But if
right.
you had to pick,
Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
I think it's Josh Brolin. And unfortunately, he probably needed that audition video from Tarantino and Rodriguez.
And Rodriguez. So who are you saying most important? Now you're saying Tommy.
No, I think it's got to be Javier.
Okay.
Because it's about, why the movie is electric in the first place. And I think it's electric because of the psycho,
Okay. I kind of might go Tommy as well.
Yeah.
And the reason why, the Coen Brothers, I understand the Coen Brothers, but let's
That's a
let's
tough
go into my
question.
next question for you.
Okay.
If you had to pick another director to direct this film, and not directly the same exact shots, but taking the same script, the same feel of the movie, you just put it in someone else's hands, who would you like to see also direct this?
Wow.
Or who could direct it that would make it a great movie?
That's incredibly tough. That's a very tough question.
I think we indirectly mentioned two directors already in the podcast.
Who?
Indirectly.
Okay. Tarantino.
Denis.
Oh, sure.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe Inarritu.
Oh yeah, yeah, and interesting because Inarritu wouldn't have been like working at that point. I don't think any of his.
No, that's not
movies-
true. I think 21 grams.
Oh, that's right. What am I
Yeah,
saying?
he's not
Yeah.
an American yet.
Right.
He's doing Spanish films
Yep.
still.
Yep.
Anyone, but I named those. Anyone that comes to mind because I have a real one here that I put down.
Oh, okay. Think for just a half second. Here. This one needs thought.
Well, that's the point. That's why I don't want it to have thought.
I would say for the I'm forgetting his name for the visceralness though, and comparing in that year for assassination of Jesse James.
Andrew Dominic.
Yes, because maybe not so much Blonde, but definitely the same year assassination of Jesse James. The way that,
like that
violence is presented, it's very sudden. It's shocking, and I feel like that could possibly play into the minimal atmosphere, the moodiness of the film, and I feel like maybe he could capture that grit.
That's an interesting point. I like that. I had someone. I don't think it would be maybe as good, but I have Steven Soderbergh. I think what he'd do with the three characters would be just weird.
Sure.
He
might capture some of the comedy. Yeah.
He does his own film editing. The Coen Brothers do their own film editing. I took it there.
Yeah.
The joke that I had though was I was going to say Brian De Palma. We just have like a murder sex scene with Anton Chigurh.
Yeah, exactly. With Llewellyn's wife at the end. It's very awkward. It's arguably like tasteless.
That's really good. Last question.
I love that De Palma's now the punching bag of the podcast.
Last question. If you and I were cast in this movie, who would we be and why?
You're definitely the deputy.
You think?
Oh yeah.
I don't know where I would necessarily go.
I think you're definitely the deputy because you would want to at least like work with Tommy Lee Jones, respecting this whole time.
I'm not even top 3. You put me as a W.
Oh no. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm maybe the gas station clerk.
I don't know. That would be so good. I was trying to, but top.
We're closing now.
That would be really funny. I don't know.
And also, folks, over the course of our friend group, we have always had a tendency of looking at a movie and recasting with our friend group. I don't know if other people do this or not, but
we used to do it
constantly.
and it would be odd, like a character would just pop up on screen and be like, "Oh,
Yeah. Exactly. One of my favorites of these is in Lord of the Rings.
We talked about this on a podcast before,
Yeah. I was cast as every evil thing in Sauron's army, including the eye itself.
That's right. And then just Gimli.
Yeah, true. Yeah. How could I forget?
Okay, so you might be gas station clerk.
Yeah, I'll take
and then I would be
deputy.
I
don't know. What do you think as far as casting?
I don't know. I was trying to see if you could be a psychopath, but I don't think so.
I don't think
you
could too.
No, I don't think it would be.
He's a little bit too deep. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll be Stephen Root. I'll be
Who's Stephen Root? Who's
the business guy that hires Woody Harrelson.
Oh, that's pretty. We'll look into it. That's pretty good. That's good. Okay, all right. I think that's all I've got on my end, Vin. Excellent film.
Yeah.
Fun special.
Yeah.
I hope people enjoy this. Whether you've seen it before, haven't seen it in years, just saw it recently. I hope this is good. We'll find out. I don't know.
Yeah,
Please do write in if tom.vin@thedailyratings.com. That's our email. Please email us. Even better, donate. I guess I should just quick plug that we don't have advertisers here. We don't have paywalls. We don't have tier structures. We are all just value for value. Are you finding our content valuable? Are you enjoying it? Is it something that you like or excited to listen to every week? Do you check in once a month because there's movies that you care about, you want to hear about, and you like Vin's voice on it? Are you using the website just to be like, what do I want to watch tonight? And you go to the Daily Ratings and check out the website. We just crossed over 1,000 films, 1,000 films on this site.
Wow.
I still got 200 more to go. And we add 5 a week. So there is a lot on there. The point is, if any of that, is it valuable for you? We put it out there for free, and we ask that you give us value back, and that's through monetary support. You can go to thedailyratings.com, and you head to the donations tab, and it's whatever amount that you want. We don't make you give us $50 or have to have these numbers. We have some fun set donations, like buy Vin a movie ticket, become a Godfather, whatever. But if you just want to give $350, if you want to give $5, but just a random $5, or it could be the weirdest number. If you want to give $1,000, if you want to give $500, you can. It's whatever value that you're feeling this week that's going into your pocket from this, basically. I don't want to go into a huge thing. Like, I go through it every week. You know what I mean? It's the value for value model. When you produce or when you donate, you become an actual producer, because in Hollywood, when you financially support a project, you are a legit producer of that thing. And then you can absolutely write in a note to us, questions, comments, critiques, questions about anything. We're actually going to read it and address it on air. We will give you a shout out. We will put you in the show notes saying that you're a producer, executive producer, whatever, and we'll address your note on air. It's the least we can do if you're going to actually help us financially with the podcast and show us that value that you're getting. That's how we're doing it here. Vin, what do we got coming up next week? Or any notes, or what's up?
Well, we got Ghostbusters next week.
Okay.
Give a peek into that. Also, I have I'll just say like this. Like the Indiana Jones episode, I have a dark secret with the Ghostbusters franchise. But honestly, after that, we have a significant amount to catch up on March. There are probably a good 8 films.
We're hitting the road.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as Dune came, we're doing something fun with this. We're flying, folks.
Yeah.
Like, new films are exploding. It's going to light up the site with new films.
Absolutely. So, looking forward to all that. I would say final notes for the must-watch special is, like we already hit on already, with this being in the 90s, in ways, they're 10 out of 10s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In ways, compared to the scrutiny that is not given to film and other review sites, I feel like these are, in the ways you can see these movies as perfect. But something that I was reflecting on for the 91 that this got is, where does that put the 6 points of difference from 91 to an 85, and why we consider those still must watch? I think a lot of that comes from an enriched experience when you rewatch something.
Yeah.
I think the mark of something truly great is being able to return to it and walk away with a new experience, an enriched experience, and No Country just hits the nail on the head. I feel like that is what a lot of what we circled on in this review is, that there's just so much that when we're coming back to it, we're either still enjoying it, none of it is weaker, or we're finding something new to love. So that, I feel like that aspect of compounding, that's what makes something great. And again, if you're this far in and you didn't give it a watch, give it a watch. I'm not messing around. I don't watch all the superhero stuff. I didn't skip Blue Beetle. Not to say watch this movie right away. So thanks for the listen, folks. We did enjoy doing this, and
this is a blast, an absolute blast.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we got a new type of special that we could throw in there.
He's getting it under the belt, for sure.
And it's great to highlight these 90 pluses, because there's so few of them for us. Again, 1,000 films, there's like 11, 10, 13 of them.
Right.
So it puts a stamp on it, just puts our little thumbprint on it, and it's awesome. So this was a blast. Folks, thank you so much. We will be back next week. We're going to be killing some ghosts all episode long. And thanks so much for listening. Again, just head to thedailyratings.com if you like this show, and become a producer. We would greatly appreciate it. We thank you all so much. We'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast.